Hey everyone, BlizzCon Day 2 just concluded, and yesterday evening Blizzard sat down for hours with multiple media outlets, Twitch streamers and YouTube content creators, and answered all the questions that people had regarding their games. Here, obviously, we're interested about Classic TBC, so since yesterday, I've been digging through the internet to find every bit of information that was revealed about Classic TBC. So today, I'll be condensing all that information in this video for you to enjoy. I'm sure there will be a few things that you missed, as there has been a lot of interviews happening yesterday. So sit down, relax, and let's look at everything that was revealed about TBC. First off, let's get this out of the way real quick. This is the information revealed during the Q&A in the BlizzCon official stream. This Q&A session contained many questions regarding both Classic and Shadowlands. I will try to go through it quickly, as I'm sure most of you already saw it. The first question was about the way our characters will be moving from Classic to TBC, and how that will work exactly. Holly Longdale answered this question by saying that the way it works is the moment you log in during pre-patch, a snapshot of your character is made, and that snapshot is copied to the Classic Era servers, which are permanent Classic Vanilla servers. From there, you will be presented with two options. If you select TBC, your character snapshot on the Classic Era servers will be inactive. If you select Classic Era, your character snapshot on the Classic TBC server will be inactive. If you then decide to buy a character clone service, both those snapshots will be active for you to play at any time. The next question was about the population numbers in TBC and how that will be handled. Brian Birmingham answered this by saying that they still want the game to feel challenging as far as fighting over resources and spawns. That's part of the gameplay, but at the same time, they do recognize that they are working with a way bigger population than they were back in original TBC, so they are willing to make some targeted changes if there turns out to be problem areas, like they did for Black Lotus, for example, in Classic. The next question was about name reservations and whether our character names will be reserved for both versions of Classic. Brian Birmingham answered this one by saying that yes, the moment the snapshot of your character is created when you log in on the TBC pre-patch, that character name will be reserved on that same server on Classic Era. They might also release that character name later if people don't log on to their characters on Classic Era. He did also reveal here that the exact same server list will be present for both Classic TBC and Classic Era, and that they are thinking about merging or connecting servers down the line. And for that reason, your character name might contain your original server name, like it is the case on retail, for example. The next question was about the possibility of class tuning for TBC. Again, Birmingham answered here by saying that the general answer is no. They are not looking to tune classes. They want to keep the authentic feel of the game, with one notable exception being the Seal of Blood for Alliance, which might have exasperated faction imbalance in TBC, so it is the only exception so far. PvP titles in TBC, how will they be distributed? The question here is asking about TBC Arena titles and not the old vanilla titles. Brian Birmingham answers by saying that since they don't plan on having battle groups in TBC, they want to make it more fair to obtain PvP titles, but they still want to keep it very exclusive. So the PvP titles will be distributed to a small percentage of players instead of the literal top 1 team in the region. The host follows this question by asking about Arena Season 1 and whether that could start earlier in TBC. Birmingham reveals that they were actually thinking about starting Season 1 earlier, unlike what they announced yesterday. So their new plan is to have Arena Season 1 in Phase 1, Phase 2 Season 2, Phase 3 Season 3, Phase 4 only having Zulaman, and Phase 5 Season 4. By the way, note here that this shows how responsive they are to community feedback. This concern was raised by the community as soon as the content release schedule was announced, and 24 hours later, they listened and decided to change that. The last question in the official BlizzCon stream is about the possibility of opening fresh new Classic servers. Holly Longdale answers here by saying that there is no plan for that as of now, but they promise they have their eyes on that and they will be discussing it once they get past the initial Burning Crusade launch phase. This question is then followed by another one from the host about layering and whether layering is still on the table and how it will be handled. Longdale answers by saying that their main goal is to serve as many players as they can. If you want to be able to play, you should be able to play. So if they have to use layering for a short period of time to accomplish that, so be it. This concludes the official BlizzCon Q&A, but there is still a lot of interviews containing even more interesting info, so let's get to them right away. Let's start with Mr. GM's interview with John Hight and Brian Birmingham. There was 13 questions asked here, so let's get through them quickly right away. First question is about Classic Plus, and if that is still considered by the Classic team for the future. John Hight answers this by saying that they certainly heard this from the community multiple times, but Burning Crusade was the loudest cry, so they decided to focus on TBC instead. And as time goes, they will keep listening to the community and they will see where people want to go next from here. Next question is about TBC and which patch it is based on. Brian Birmingham reveals that TBC is based off patch 2.4.3 as a baseline, since that's the best iteration of the game, the most stable and polished one. But that even though 2.4.3 is their starting point, they are still going to make some aspects of the game progressive, like raid nerfing for example. They plan on bringing raid encounters pre-nerf, but as time goes, they plan on relaxing the difficulty and making raiding easier for lower tiers. Same thing for attunements. The attunement process will progress the same way as it progressed originally in TBC. Tough at the start, but relaxed later on. With one small exception, which is a certain boss that would only allow one person in the raid to be attuned to the next raid. They don't want that, and they want everyone to be attuned at once. They are obviously talking about Kael'thas here. The next question is, since the game is based off 2.4.3, one specific thing about that patch is that mounts were lowered to be obtained at level 30 instead of 40. Is that going to be the case in Classic TBC? Birmingham answers here by saying that yes, if that was the case in 2.4.3, it will be the case for Classic TBC. And on that same vein, since that change was made to make leveling through Azeroth faster, they are also planning to bring the leveling speed improvements that were brought with patch 2.4 on the 20 to 60 leveling brackets. Your main goal as you're leveling in Azeroth is to get to Outland fast, so they want to make that as seamless and easy as possible. Next, Collector's Edition, and whether the Netherwing pet would be available for players that have the Collector's Edition of original TBC. Brian Birmingham confirms that yes, it was a challenge to do that for Classic, but that is certainly their intent to bring those Collector's Edition rewards with Classic TBC as well. The next question is about Fresh again. Is there any possible future where Fresh Classic servers starting at Phase 1 would be launched? John Hight answers here by saying that their focus right now is to provide a good Burning Crusade and Classic era experience. As that settles down, they think the right timing for Fresh Start Realms would be at that time. Brian Birmingham then adds that, as trivial as it seems, providing an automated phase transition is a challenge. They do want to support every version of the game as best as they can, but they would also want a Fresh Classic server to be automated and not require a lot of manpower to deploy phases of content manually. The main takeaway here is that they did discuss Fresh servers internally, and they think that the best time to launch them is after the settling of the initial launch phase of Classic TBC. Mr. GM then asked about the server list for Classic Era and Classic TBC, and whether those same servers would be present on both versions. Brian Birmingham says that yes. For example, Pagel US will exist on both Classic TBC and Classic Era, and later on, since they plan on connecting servers, they will use technologies that they used in the past to solve population combination problems. I gotta say that this next question I had to redo it about 5 times because of how excited I am to even read it for the 5th time. The next question, and probably the most important one here, Drums of Battle. What's the plan for them? Brian Birmingham answers that it is certainly on their radar. They have been listening to the community worrying about this leading up to the TBC announcement. They definitely want to make some changes there, so it doesn't feel like everybody who wants to optimize their output has to go leatherworking. But at the same time, they still want leatherworking to feel like a strong profession, similarly to how engineering was in Classic. So they will make some minor adjustments to that end so that it still feels strong, but so that you don't feel forced to go leatherworking to perform good in raids. Next question, how far are they willing to go as far as changes to the game? Would they bring the Dungeon Finder, for example? Brian Birmingham says that the Dungeon Finder was actually a thing in original TBC, but that was more like a group finder. Certainly not an automated matchmaking and teleport tool like it is on retail, for example. But that feature was underused, and they don't feel like it is worth chasing. They want to keep the authentic feel of the game and the social friction that comes with finding players by talking to them manually creates stronger bonds and relationships between players rather than finding someone on a list and automatically grouping with them. And on that regard, as far as how far they are willing to go in bringing changes, they want to bring changes that solve problems, but not bringing changes that are brought for the sake of bringing changes. They want Classic TBC to feel authentic and not mess with the authentic feel too much. Next question, would you also consider changes to Classic in the future to make it a better experience for players? Brian Birmingham answers here by saying potentially. Spell batching is one thing that they change, for example. They also consider Diamond Flask and whether they should change that. They definitely want Classic era servers to feel supported, but they don't want to be radical here. People are there because that is the experience that they chose, and they want to make sure that if they do make changes, that it feels like something that would get an overwhelmingly positive response from the Classic era players. Last question here, where Mr. GM got two answers for one. Is the content release schedule something that could be adjusted by the community feedback from the beta? John Hight says yes. Within reason, they do have the ability to pull things forward or push things back depending on the readiness of the community. Brian Birmingham then adds that one thing that they caught after making the announcement was that maybe they don't want the arena seasons delayed. They probably want arena season 1 with Karazhan, so that's something that they are already planning on changing even after yesterday's announcement. This concludes the Mr. GM interview. Now I will move to some random different interviews that you probably didn't hear about since they are in different languages than English. Many of those interviews contain questions that were already asked in English and that I already covered in this video, so I will be skipping those questions, but there are also some very interesting infos that only appeared here. Let's get started. First, there was an interview of Zoltan and Cinderis, who are two French Twitch streamers, with Holly Longdale and Patrick Dawson. One question that was asked here is, do we have an approximate date for the beta and maybe for launch? Pat Dawson answers by saying that the beta is right around the corner. They're working on getting an internal build ready for it, and it won't be long before it starts. As for the launch date, that will be determined by how well the beta goes. It would be premature from them to announce a date before the beta even starts. And the next and final unique question in this interview is about Wrath of the Lich King. Zoltan and Cinderis asked Ian Hazekostas 2 years ago about TBC, and he told them that it is something that they are thinking about. So they are asking the Classic WoW devs here again for Wrath. Holly Longdale says that they've been hearing this coming up a lot. Just like they got TBC ready thanks to the community, they will keep listening to the community and what they want and work to that accordingly. But they are focusing on bringing Burning Crusade for now. They said so far the community has been very vocal about BC. They're sure that they will be very vocal about Lich King too. And last but not least are interviews made by online publication websites. WoWclassic.cz, which is a Czech website, Buff.de, which is a German website, and BlizzardWatch.com, which is an English website. Most of those do not contain the original way the questions were asked, but they do contain recaps of all the information that was gathered. On Buff.de, we notably have the following info. John Hight is sure that they have to activate layering for the launch of Classic TBC, but he also assumes that the layers can be deactivated again as soon as the players in Outland spread out. The aim at launch is also to avoid queues. However, they will probably not be completely prevented. Brian Birmingham later suggests that there might be new servers for Classic TBC, but that only happens if queues get out of hand on all existing servers. If, on the other hand, there is a gross overpopulation on only some servers, Blizzard will first offer server transfer options to enable affected players to switch to other existing realms. Brian Birmingham reiterates that Blizzard bans thousands of bots every week. That happens all the time, apart from big ban waves. They want to continue to invest a lot of resources in this area. What they definitely do not want to do is take away your hard-earned gold due to any restrictions on the transition to TBC Classic. On WoWclassic.cz, we have the following. The game, as such, will work on patch 2.4.3, mainly character stats, talents, spells, etc. Other game features, such as the Guild Bank, will be judged by Blizzard individually, so the Guild Bank might not be present from the start. World buffs from Classic will only work up to level 63. Restrictions on entering dungeons, 30 dungeons per day, have been added to Classic WoW due to the frequent misuse of bots. It is clear to the developers that TBC has way shorter dungeons, and they will try to think about increasing the dungeon limits. Blizzard had no idea that Classic would be so successful, and the Burning Crusade was the answer to the fact that everything worked out so well for the fans. Currently, the team is open to working on Wrath of the Lich King in the future, but it is only up to players. No alternative story development or alternative addition of new races, professions, or game systems is planned. Blizzard wants to make Classic so that players can remember what it was like in the past. And finally, on BlizzardWatch.com, we learned that there will probably be no gold cap limit to go to TBC with. Those are all the interviews that I could find. If there is more info out there that I missed, please let me know in the comments, and I will try to pin the most relevant comments. And also, let me know what you think about all of this. Personally, I am so excited about all that was revealed here. The community has been very vocal about Classic TBC, and it looks like we are getting the game exactly the way we wanted it. With that said, this channel's focus is on Classic TBC, and to bring you as much value as possible, so make sure to subscribe to not miss more content like this in the future. And as always, whatever you do, remember to have fun, take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Bye for now.